The information featured in this program is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances, needs, or objectives. Guests appearing in the program may have commercial arrangements or associations with some of the companies, organisations, or foundations mentioned. Opinions expressed by the hosts or guests are personal of nature and not to be considered as advice or an inducement to purchase products or services. Before making any investment, insurance, or financial plan decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise you on whether your decision is appropriate for you. This program is for informational purposes only. Why this study? This is a particular part of it to actually help the reader or the audience here understand why they should go and read the full paper. Mark, when we wrote this one here and we put this all together as a team, us three, the big core value is actually why, and what we looked at here is these dot points, the store of value, application platforms, or B2B merchants. Now, store of value is pretty much linked to Bitcoin. Application platforms is pretty much associated with Ethereum in more detail. Some people don't know that, I know. And B2B merchant transactions is very much associated with Ripple. So there's different use cases for some of our popular coins. What are your thoughts on this particular area to get people to read the actual main paper?
So a lot of people, and I know you have the same reaction when you bring up Bitcoin, they ask, what should I invest in? If they ask that question, I personally believe they missed the big picture of what's going on here. Bitcoin is the first use case that's coming out of this out of blockchain, and again, as Dave said, the future is we don't know where it's going to head, but it's going to be an exciting future. All these crypto networks are a new way of exchanging value, and we see that with the NFTs. We see that with again what you did with Ethereum with the level 2 apps and decentralized finance. This technology, you're going to be able to create your own. We see that with NTS, but you're going to be able to create your own attributes, your own sort of have community attributes into the coins. So we just don't know yet where people are going to go with this type of technology, and it's exciting. Being able to program, being able to have the money make decisions for you instead of you making decisions about your money. Having this program, whether it be AI or machine learning, having attributes built into your money to where you say, Mark wants to buy these skis, right? But then your money will say, no, if you want to go on vacation next week, don't buy these skis. So your money will say, okay, I advise you to do it. Your money will be your own personal advisor, right? So there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the future. I think it's going to be really cool with this technology. And as the paper points out, again, you said there's Bitcoin is a store of value, which is one aspect of like digital gold, right? Ethereum has this whole like Turing network, right, where you have all these apps and they're going to be doing different stuff with smart contracts. But then you have all these utilities too, like Ripple is just one example, but you're going to have all these utility type of coins and security type coins that are going to do other things. And it's just fascinating to see what happens. And this is just the tip of the iceberg here. And why this study was because we wanted to, it goes back to education again, we want to show people what's happening out there. And again, it just happened to be during a pandemic where all this stuff was going on, which was just fascinating. I think from a historical standpoint, it's going to show that this is a global paper, but it happened during a pandemic, and there's a lot of economic stuff in there too. It shows the economy's like really bad, being negative GDP, and they have to put so much money into prop up their local economies. But seeing it go forward with what it has and what it's trying to get across, and the key point is just trying to educate folks, even government officials, of what's going to happen, what's happening, and what's possibly it's going to happen in the future. Yeah.
Fantastic there. And I know, Dave, you and I talk about educate a lot of people on Bitcoin and Ethereum and the difference with Ripple and so forth and those use cases. And like, we make sure we educate that they are different use cases, and they have specific outputs and uses. It makes sense, doesn't it? People are still learning, aren't they?
They are. And I think that's second, the one that, so I think Bitcoin stands on its own in a fairly distinct category. I can't see anything else that's emerging that really competes with it. And I think Mark touched on that earlier in our conversation. In the second category, Ethereum's just an example. There are an immense number of crypto solutions that are trying to tackle that application platform problem. I think it's going to be very interesting to see which solution emerges the winner there. And then we've got Ripple, and I don't see too many other. I think there are a lot of solutions that say they're competing, but I actually don't think there's too many solutions that actually effectively compete with Ripple. There is, of course, Stellar, which is built off the same code base as Ripple, but it's that a third one's a really interesting one in that. The question that comes to my mind is, will a solution like this replace the Swift network one day? I know that's certainly what Ripple want to do, but will it get there? Now, one thing I wanted to ask, probably Mark, is so we talked about why this study. It's a lot about education. For you, what if there was one takeout for this paper? And I know there's a huge number of things in the paper. It's a very difficult question. If there was one takeout, Mark, what would it be?
Jeez, yeah, there is a lot, and I think this goes hand in hand with. I think it's two, but I think it could be considered as one. That's during the pandemic, right? We went through the pandemic, wrote the paper during 2020. The governments were putting so much money into propping up their economies, making sure they don't essentially go into default, and there's a big crisis, right? That they were still pumping as much money. They're putting in trillions of dollars. They're still putting in millions of dollars in fintech, right? They were putting it in for the future. So they're investing in fintech, AI, blockchain projects throughout the world. It's throughout the world. It's common. Even though they're trying to prop themselves up for to get out of the pandemic, they were still invested for the future. And they see that this type of technology, blockchain technology, is going to help them get into the future. China went headlong into doing their digital yuan, right? The renminbi, and they actually released it. So other companies, and you see that with central banks now, they're starting to go more and more into the central bank digital currency. And the second aspect, this is very important, and I see this in Europe and the US. They put so much money into the economy that the banks had all this money, all this cash on hand, and they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't want to lend it out because half the people lost their jobs. So they're going to lend it out to people that might not pay it back. I think that's why I know in Maryland, they gave out grants for PPP loans they gave out loans for PPP. And then when it came down to it, they say, oh, it's just grants, keep the money, you don't have to pay it back. So the banks, and it's a quote, there's a quote in the US section in there from a bank saying, we have so much money, they printed so much money, we have a windfall, we just don't know what to do with it. And that was very shocking to hear that from a bank when the whole point was to lend the money out to get people propped up from the environment, right? From the pandemic. That was a shocking aspect of it. But the idea behind of cryptocurrency, you see that it's interesting that this whole environment, cryptocurrency and blockchain, was growing. And continuing to have a movement in and of itself, while the world was in turmoil. The cryptocurrencies were still rising. It still got stronger and stronger. Everything else was going crazy, and it still it kept on going. It kept on. More people got invested in it. It didn't go away because of the crisis. It just made more people say, I want to put my money somewhere safe. I'll put it into Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency networks. I think that was very interesting, part of the document.
Oh, very much. All that research. And obviously all the information that's been researched and the main body of the white paper is around regulation, ethics, privacy, jurisdictions where this is working, economy, enforcement and tax policy. I know I got a lot of the tax policy around the world, different jurisdictions, how they address blockchain or cryptocurrency in general. But yeah, there's some interesting stats that come out of there, Mark. I like it. Yeah.
It's a very good document. It's eye opening. I read through it many times. I read through it again just last week. It's a good document. It's a lot. I wouldn't sit down in one sitting and read it because you'll probably fall asleep. No, but it's interesting. I read it in pieces. So the first part's good. It gets kind of thick around the regulation part, but again, it covers regulation from all around the world. It covers North America, the Americas. It covers Europe, and then it covers the Asia Pacific, and it has everybody in there. And it's such a new field, and how the governments are reacting around the world is they're doing a lot of research. Some of them were really, staunch and saying, no, let's ban cryptocurrencies till we figure out what's going on. There's some that embrace it. So yeah, we can use it. They, we have VAT taxes, you have capital gains if you sell. And some of them are just trying to come up with their own stance. It's very new for a lot of the governments right now. So you'll see that the paper covers a whole gamut of that, even from the tax policy standpoint, having no common unified definitions on what this all means. You have digital currency, you have virtual currency, you have crypto assets, you have digital assets, you have all this stuff, and it makes it twice as hard not having a common set of definitions to enforce like tax policy. And it's interesting. And the paper, and we know this, we've been in the space for a while, this paper has been released, even though a lot of the data in there is from 2020. It's going to be different when we come back and start talking in 2021. It's going to be totally different again. It's going to only progress. I don't see it going down. I do see some of the crypto, obviously the tokens go up and down, and some of them disappear and go away. But something new is going to come out of it, and it's going to be just as exciting. Maybe we'll talk about the AI starts creating their own coin. Someone has CERN supercomputer creates their own token, and it's going to start making decisions for us. It becomes a new global central bank. How about that?
Well, definitely. I think David, we've had a great time collaborating with Mark on this. Obviously here from Sydney, Australia, it's been an absolute pleasure working on this paper. We've learned a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, learned a massive amount, and I think. So Morpheus first got involved in the paper, I can't think it was middle of last year, and it had been underway for a while, and we've learned a huge amount from Mark and from others who participated through creation of the paper. It's been it's been an excellent process, and what's really cool about it is there's been people around the globe who have contributed to this. It's not just the US, it's not just Europe, it's not just APAC. You kind of got every geography who have inputted into this, and I think that's helped create a very balanced view. And I'm really grateful for the people we've met along the journey. That's been really good, and I also think we need to mention the amount of work that Mark has put into this personally. Like whilst there's a lot of contributors, if Mark hadn't been sitting there in the driving seat and kind of pulling this together, asking questions, prodding people, I think that's quite an achievement what you've managed to pull together here, Mark.
Yeah. I think it's been fun. I think it's a team effort. It was awesome. It was really fun. And at the time I would sit there and look at the paper and I'd read it again. I was like, what does that mean? Then have to rewrite it, right? But no, everybody added a lot of stuff to the paper, and we had some initial kickoff calls to talk about the paper before it was even remotely complete, and they were just as good. I really want to touch. There's so many things we can touch, like have little small sub papers. The big one still gets back to privacy and anonymity, which is a big deal, especially the privacy coins and anonymity and the ability to keep privacy and the government not to have total anonymity. It's just great. Those conversations we had with Ksenia, who's another author of the paper, and Sachin were great. Ksenia was like, no, you can't have anonymity, and Sachin's like, no, people should have privacy. And then there's people in the middle, right? Privacy by design, stuff like that, or privacy by default. I think there's so much that we can talk about. Yeah.
No, definitely. Look, you've done a great job, Mark, and well done. And thank you for all the effort. And it's been a pleasure. If anybody, again, wants to download the paper, the executive summary, or download the full version, please go to www.gbaglobal.org/CMP. But again, thank you very much, Mark, for your time today. And David, it was a pleasure as always. And if you've got any questions, please send them through to us. We'll be happy to answer those.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks, David.